Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of TSFP, the Spanish Football Podcast. I'm Phil Kitromilides. I'm joined as ever by Dr. Sid Lowe. Hello, Sydney.
Hello, Philip. How are you? It's a Sunday. It's a bit strange.
Yeah, full disclosure, we are recording this on Sunday for the first time in a very long time. We haven't done a Monday podcast on a Sunday, purely because of logistical issues. Tomorrow, it's a lot easier for us to record today. Unfortunately, the vast majority of this podcast is going to be about Spain and their game last night against Georgia. So we thought it doesn't really matter if we record today or if we record on Monday. We will have lots of other content out at patreon.com/TSFB throughout the rest of the week, as we always do. During the league season, when there's a La Liga, you get a newsletter, you get the TSFP diary, you get access to the Discord, to the WhatsApp group, Zoom calls. There's loads of stuff you can get at TSFP patreon.com/TSFP from just €4.75 a month, just over €1 a week. Loads of stuff. It's probably worth it. Sid, let's start off by
that probably was redundant. It's not probably worth it. It's definitely worth it.
It's definitely worth a tiny little bit of your money. Come and give it to us. Anyway, this is free. This is free. So let's get on with the good stuff, shall we, Sid? And discussing Spain, yet another victory, yet another convincing performance. 3 wins from 3 in their World Cup qualifying group. They are all but through to the World Cup next year. Still not mathematically, but a victory against Bulgaria in Valladolid in a couple of days' time would seal that spot. You will be there to witness that happening. You weren't in Elche yesterday because of the weather. There was horrific rains in that part of the world. And Sydney, very unlike you, actually took a sensible decision when it comes to going to football matches, and you decided, I'm not going down there.
Yeah, because I was going to make the most of it and do a 3-day trip. I was doing it by car. If I'd been doing it by train, I'd have still gone. But doing it by car, I thought, you know what? I actually don't want to do that, because the travel will be horrendous.
I mean, it's very, very, very unlike you in taking the correct and sensible decision. So well done. I applaud you on that. Let's talk about Spain then, because I'm pretty convinced now, and this might sound silly after watching them beat Georgia 2-0.
Yeah,
I'm pretty convinced Spain are going to win the World Cup now.
Well,
would you like me to expand why?
Yes, please do. Yeah.
I just think that this performance yesterday, it was so good and it was so convincing, and it was without so many first choice players. The strength in depth is extraordinary. Anyone who comes in does a fantastic job. They know how to play. They know what to do, what the manager wants of them. There's a real sense of unity. There is extraordinary talent and strength in depth. They could field 2 very, very strong starting 11s in the World Cup, and I don't know which one would win. I just think that they're the best. They're the best team at the moment, and that doesn't mean that the best team doesn't always win the World Cup. But I think they are, Sid. I think they're the best team, and I think they're going to win the World Cup.
I mean, look, as a starting point for who's going to win the World Cup, that they are the best team is probably the best place to start, isn't it?
Yes, they have the best players.
I'm actually one individually. This is where you sometimes wonder if they really do, but they, I think the key thing you were talking about was this idea that there's a momentum about them, there's a clarity, there's an idea of how to play, and that doesn't really change. I must admit, I felt yesterday, certainly in the first half, I felt that there was a little bit of spark missing. A little bit of ability to kind of break a team down. I suppose in a way it's easy to say that because you go, well, look at Lamine and Nico, and they're not there, and it's just kind of a bit too simplistic, maybe maybe you're looking for that to be missing, and so you think it is missing. I thought there was a little bit of that missing, but you're right. The sense of control of a game, the ability to choose the moments when to speed it up, to try and find the passes that cut through people, to not ever really be put under pressure. Because I can't think of a single moment yesterday where I thought, oh, they might get caught here. And that's one of the things that we used to think with Spain. Yeah, and I think maybe that is that the most significant difference between the Spain of now and the Spain of pre-Euros, which is that pre-Euros, I felt, I don't know whether or not you go along with this, that kind of a big team would catch them, because I always felt they were sort of on the edge of being caught out. And you look at them now and you don't feel like they're on that edge anymore. You feel like the sense of control is sufficient that they're never really going to get caught out. I think under normal circumstances we might worry about the fact that there isn't an obvious striker, but then Oyarzabal is that obvious striker.
Yeah.
Ferran can be that obvious striker, maybe. I think you look at the fact that you were talking about strength in depth, and possibly it's taken a while. I don't want to go on about Zubimendi because we talked about him a little bit in the build-up to this game. But, you lose someone like Rodri, and you've got someone who's playing that same role, not in exactly the same way. In fact, if anything, I would say Zubimendi plays it quicker than Rodri. I wouldn't say better, but quicker. I think he plays that role quicker than Rodri does. I think Rodri will slow the game down that little bit more. I agree with you that they're the best around at the moment. I think that Lamine Yamal gives them a dimension that they've not had even in their, their dominant era of winning 3 tournaments in a row, of something a little bit special, a little bit different, a little bit out of nowhere. Because I think even then, players of the quality of Xavi and Iniesta, there was a smoothness to them, and there's a technique and all that. But this kind of sort of improvisation and do something unexpected, which I think they've now got with Lamine, assuming that he's okay by then. The only reason I would say no to your statement really is that it's a tournament and shit happens, and there's lots of other good teams around. But yeah, if you look at Spain, you think absolutely they're certainly one of 2 or 3 favourites, definitely.
As we discussed on the Friday podcast, we are not open for gambling sponsorships. But we did look at the website of some bookmakers, in Spain are the favourites to win the World Cup next season, which is obviously conditioned by where the money is going as well. But also, I think it does underline the fact that it's not just us that feel that Spain are the best team at the moment. Their World Cup qualification campaign has been impeccable. 3 wins out of 3, 11 goals scored, none conceded. Obviously, the caveat is that they've played Georgia, Turkey, and Bulgaria. But these are sort of solid European footballing nations. It's not Liechtenstein, Moldova, and San Marino. It's 3 teams that could, in theory, and could in the past have caused you some problems, but there hasn't even been a whiff of any problem in any of those 3 matches. I just want to pick up on something that you were talking about there, Sid, with Zubimendi and Rodri. And it does feel like with this Spain side now that they do have players missing, and they have had players missing, but whoever's come in has kind of like really taken their opportunity and given the manager something to think about extensively. Pedro Porro at right back over Dani Carvajal, who starts there. At the moment, it's difficult to not put Pedro Porro in the team. It's difficult to leave Zubimendi out of the team, even with Rodri fully fit. He wasn't for this particular set of fixtures, but Zubimendi has stated the case. Mikel Merino ahead of Fabian Ruiz. There are so many issues. Good for the manager all over the pitch in terms of selection, which is going back to what we were saying about strength and depth.
I was just thinking about you saying that about Pedro Porro now, and there's a doubt over whether he starts over Carvajal, given the level of performance and given the dynamism with which Marcos Llorente came onto the pitch yesterday. You look at that list and you think, could there actually be a third name in this? Because his performance level is so high at the moment that maybe there could be a third name in that as well. And I certainly think Marcos Llorente will end up getting a place in the squad because he gives you versatility and he gives you other things, and not just the yellow glasses. But you kind of go around the team, and you're mentioning Fabian Ruiz, and look, at the risk of going over old ground, before the Euros in 2024, at the Spain get together before they travelled in Las Rozas, there was a kind of a media day thing where there was a group of us, maybe 15 or so of us, and talking. We got the chance to speak to quite a lot of Spanish players that day, and there was kind of this rotating structure. And anyway, the reason I bring that up, apart from just giving you the insight of how it works, is it was quite interesting because what it meant was we had players turn up and we would talk to them in a little group, and then another player would turn up and we'd talk to him in a little group, and another player would turn up and we'd talk to him in a little group. The reason I bring it up is because it gave me a nice insight into the recurring questions, the things that were concerning Spanish journalists, if you see what I mean, and the things that kept coming up. One of the things that kept coming up was this idea that Spain just don't have the players who are the best in the world. And it's an idea that me and you discussed as well going into the tournament. This idea that, they've got lots of good players. Yes, there's a clear identity. Yes, everyone's technically very good. And when they get it right, they're exceptional. But that, as I said before, that sense that I had at least, that they were vulnerable, that there were moments where they would balls it up and that they would make a mistake and it might cost them. And that against a team like France, it probably would. But the main thing was that idea that, there aren't these players there. You look in the Spain team, and you think, well, how many of those players realistically would be candidates for the Ballon d'Or? And it's still so clear in my mind seeing Alvaro Morata stand there and say, well, Rodri already should be. Nico could be. Lamine will be. He mentioned a couple of others as well, which were slightly less convincing, but just those three. And so how many do you want us to have? He said, you lot don't notice it, but Fabien Ruiff's a really good player. And one of the other parts of this that I like is that after the final in the stadium in Berlin, we were waiting for the players to leave. And Morata came out quite near the end with obviously medal around his neck and delighted and stuff. And he didn't actually stop and talk in terms of from a kind of formal media point of view, but he did have a little bit of a brief chat with a small group of, I was going to say a group of us. That would be unfair because it would make it sound like I was important. I was sort of on the edge of this group hanging around while people were talking to Morata. And one of the things that was said to him was, you said before the tournament, and he said, I've got an eye for a player, me. And it was this real, it was sort of between the lines. It was, come on, lads.
Yeah,
there's good footballers here. And I think what's happened is that time has reinforced us and made us believe that they really have. And actually, the players maybe haven't changed that much, except for in confidence and in a sense of assuredness in the way they play. But the quality of players is probably there more than we thought before, and maybe more quality than before. Not least, of course, because at that point, when Morata said that, Lamine Yamal was 16.
Yeah, literally a child. He is. He's come on a bit since then. Seems to.
He has. I mean, he was brilliant then, and he's come on a bit,
player,
and people are frightened of him now. And there's a cockiness about him, which I think, obviously, is a double-edged sword. But I think, in competitive terms, it's really exciting. Really exciting.
You mentioned Alvaro Morata there, who wasn't in this squad for technical reasons. Wasn't called up by the manager. We'll see whether or not he's in the squad for the World Cup. I would say the chances are receding. Starting up front for Spain, Mikel Oyarzabal, who looks very much like having his place nailed on in the starting 11, something we discussed in the preview pod on Friday. It made me laugh because I was listening to reaction to this on the Spanish radio last night, and
I wonder why it made you laugh.
They managed to turn this into a massive debate. Debate.
Who would have thought it?
Polemic, even controversy about the penalty that Spain missed, because a penalty was given to Spain. It was won by Ferran. Ferran took it. Mikel Oyarzabal probably should have taken it. He is the designated penalty taker, but he said, "No, Ferran, you can have it." And it was really well saved by Mamadashvili. It wasn't the best penalty, but it was well saved. And on the radio, they were saying it's a disgrace. Why? Oyarzabal needs to be taking this. How can you let this? Blah blah blah. The manager needs to come out. And the manager was asked about this, and he was like, "Look, Ferran is a specialist penalty taker as well. He wanted to take it. Mikel let him take it. It's not an issue." But they were desperate to make it an issue. And I was thinking, guys, you just won 2-0. You're basically at the World Cup. You've got the best team in the world, and we're sitting here listening to these guys spout furiously about this absolute nonsense. It's a complete non-issue, I think, and it's the desire of the Spanish media to always have a polemic and a debate about absolutely bloody nothing, Sid.
I mean, for what it's worth, I think it's a very, very, very minor issue, which in a minute and a half you can deal with, which is that if you look at Spain's penalties, 6 different men have taken the last 6 penalties, and that suggests something, but it's not.
Mikel Oyarzabal will take it. If that was like
I think so. I agree with you.
Quarterfinals, he would have taken that. But
and by the way, just because he's the first choice penalty taker doesn't mean he won't miss. He could still miss. We have this idea that somehow it's changing the penalty taker that makes him miss. Well, it might increase the chances of him missing, but it's not like this sort of horrendous. It's not like you've chosen to miss. Do you know what you talking about that reminded me of? I'm trying to think which tournament it is, but it might even have been the Euros. Was it the Euros? Anyway, where there was this huge debate over who was basically going to be Spain's third choice goalkeeper. Yes. I can't remember. I can't think which tournament it is now. It might have been the Euros. Anyway, and I remember saying to a Spanish colleague, "Mate, if the best you've got is who's your third choice goalie, it's fine. Don't worry about it. You're going to be okay. You could take me as a third choice goalie, and it probably wouldn't matter."
Yeah. I don't know if you'd be as good in the dressing room as some of the other third choice goalkeepers that they've had. Yeah, you got the bants of Pepe Reina.
I don't think I've got the bants of Pepe Reina. I don't think I've got.
Which is a good thing.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think I've got the emotional intelligence of Alex Romero. I certainly haven't got the shot saving ability of either of those two.
I just want to quickly go back to the midfield as well, because we mentioned Subimendi and we've mentioned Rodri, and at the moment we've got what looks like a really good midfield three of Subimendi, Pedri and Mikel Merino seem to be understanding each other extremely well. Pedri playing a little bit deeper, which has obviously suited him a lot. Mikel Merino has the ability to get forward and get into spaces where he can be extremely dangerous. I mean, those three work really, really well. Whereas in theory, the first choice midfield three is Rodri, Pedri, and Fabian Ruiz. So, like I say, it goes back to the strength in depth, like we were saying. But that midfield three is very difficult to envisage those three not starting at the moment. The way that they're playing and playing together. Can you play? You can't play Zubimendi and Rodri together, can you? And then you have to put Pedri a little bit further forward, and that doesn't really. I don't know.
Well, let me put the caveat on what you just said. Those three seem to be the starting midfield, and it makes sense. And the alternative three would be to have Fabian Ruiz and Rodri and Pedri in there, and then it's structured differently. We were talking about this a bit on Friday. The other structural caveat to this, of course, is that they have tried to play with a 2 and 1 in front, which is Dani Olmo. And at the moment, it looks like Dani Olmo doesn't have that place. And that with Mikel Merino, he can be further forward, but also drop into midfield and kind of cover a lot more ground. And so I think you've got that option. You mentioning Rodri and Zubimendi playing together. On the face of it, I would agree with you. The answer is no. But there are shades a little bit, aren't there, of what Del Bosque did with Busquets and Xabi Alonso and have them both. Now, I don't think De La Fuente will do that because I think he is comfortable in this structure. But I do think it's a difficult decision to make. And I do wonder if there's a little bit of Luis De La Fuente who kind of thinks it would be nice if my decision was made for me somehow. Which is not to say I want Rodri injured, but maybe, it'd be nice for it to be clear cut that Rodri's maybe not fully there yet or whatever.
I mean, he's not fully there yet, to be honest,
no,
even in terms of fitness and in terms of performances. So while he gets there, they've got the next best thing, right?
Well, and this was exactly Luis de la Fuente's phrase. He said, I've got the best central midfielder in the world, but I've also got the second best. And at that point, I don't think we would have agreed. But I think now we probably would. In fact, we might not say second best.
Just in case you're watching the podcast on YouTube, I just had to leave the recording post for a few seconds. Apologies for that, but normal service is being resumed seamlessly. I had to say that for the YouTube viewers, but the Spotify listeners
wouldn't even have known because I just talked over it.
Yes. It's not the first time. It's actually now that we're putting the podcast, behind the scenes here, guys. Now we're putting it on YouTube. Can't really do this, but it's happened many, 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 many times that the doorbell has rung and I've had to go to to the door and I've just left Sid talking. Yeah. He's talked. I've come back, put my head
and I'm still going.
Still talking. So yes, but now we're trying not to do that because we're trying to make this a slightly more professional set up here, but
we are the third choice goalkeepers where it's all about the bants.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, man.
It's all about who is Ramiro is still the third choice goalkeeper, isn't he?
Yeah. That by the way, at some point,
that is also when Joan Garcia
is going to become a debate. That is 100% is going to become a debate.
So Unai Simon is definitely first choice, right?
Yeah, and David Raya is playing so well that and there isn't any reason to leave anyone out. And I suppose this already was a debate a little bit for this first squad get together. And I saw a debate. I saw a lot of it from Real Madrid fans. In fact, there was one. I don't want to make a star of a single man, but it was like, this is a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. We all know what's going to happen. It's a total disgrace that Joan Garcia played brilliantly all last year. Wasn't called up to the national team. As soon as he signed for Barcelona, he'll be called up to the national team. The squad list came out and he wasn't called up. And I basically gave him a tweet. So now what? And I was probably running the risk of getting into another debate, which I didn't need to get into. But that will be a debate at some point. I can guarantee it.
Yes, it will.
And if he was playing for Real Madrid, even more so.
Oh my God!
Can you imagine? I mean, anyone who's Spanish who plays for Real Madrid for 2 games, there's already this huge kind of thing. Stop it!
Did somebody say Nacho?
Nacho Selección. I mean, even Ceballos gets touted once in a while.
Even Ceballos, yes. There is the great Spanish word overbooking. It's not a Spanish word though, is it? It's an English word which they've sort of made up and use in.
Yeah, because I was going to say because we don't say overbooking, we would say double booking, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I mean,
we wouldn't say overbooking.
Say that. Overbooking when there's too much, too many people in a place. There's overbooking. There is overbooking in the Spain midfield. Which is good, which is obviously good for Spain. So that's Spain then. They will book their place at the World Cup when they beat Bulgaria in Valladolid.
Oh, you've done it now. Here comes the unexpected 0-0 draw.
Oh yeah, maybe if they beat Bulgaria. There we go. Seamlessly covered my tracks. You're going to that one, right?
I am, yes. Yeah, I'll bet that.
Driving or train?
Oh, driving, because it's Valladolid, and the beauty of Valladolid is you can get back the same night. Obviously, if you go by train, you can't. You have to wait till the following day.
The beauty of Valladolid is that you don't have to spend very long there. That's doing Valladolid a disservice.
It is doing Valladolid a disservice. I mean, from a professional point of view, it's quite handy to be able to drive there, park at the stadium, turn around and drive back and be home by 2:00 in the morning. I'll be home probably.
Patrons on Thursday had an unbelievable experience hearing Sid react live to me breaking the news to him that Oviedo had sacked their manager. You won't be able to believe this, guys. But Sid was speechless. He was literally speechless. Like, he didn't know what to say. He was stunned into just bewildered silence. It was an extraordinary thing to behold and to listen to. You've had a few days to come to terms with that. We've done the TSFP diary as well on that situation. So go and check that out if you're a patron. It means that Oviedo are the first team to have sacked their manager in La Liga this season, and it means that there's a new guy at the helm who is also an old guy at the helm in Luis Carrion.
Yeah, there are lots and lots of ways to pick up on this, and I feel like I could be here.
I mean, I think we can keep it brief because
I will try to. So,
yeah.
First of all, is the reaction to the sacking of Paunovic, and it still feels slightly baffling. And it still feels slightly baffling unless there is something else that we do not know, because Paunovic came in to Real Oviedo on a mission, basically on a 10-game mission, which turned out to be a 14-game mission to get Real Oviedo up, to provoke a reaction, to get them competing, to bring them up. He did that. In that sense, he is, at the risk of sounding like a fan, he's a legend, right? And he's now a legend. He got Oviedo to the first division 24 years later, and that won't ever be forgotten by anyone. I personally think, and I actually genuinely thought this in the summer, that there was a possibility that Real Oviedo wouldn't continue with him, that this was a guy that came for a very specific task, and that maybe if they had a roadmap, a plan for the future, that in the summer they would grasp the nettle and say, okay, look, thank you, and you're a legend, but we don't continue. But they didn't do that. Now, I don't know if they didn't do that because they felt their hands were tied, or if because they thought, wow, this guy really is brilliant, and this is exactly what we want. But if that is the case, to sack him at this point seems bizarre to me. Oviedo not in the relegation zone, having had a start to the season which they've gone away to Villarreal and played Real Madrid and Barcelona at home. There is only, I think, one game in Oviedo's start to the season where you would say they should win that. That was Levante last week, and they didn't. And they were a little bit unfortunate. I'm not going to claim they were brilliant. They certainly weren't, Pele's Brazil, but they had enough chances to have probably won that game. And then the other thing is, you think, well, if that was kind of in your mind, that if we don't win this game, then he should go, then why does it take another 5 days? There's lots of it that doesn't quite fit and doesn't feel quite right. And a lot of fans are upset at the departure of Paunovic and also the way it happened. Paunovic was literally at the training ground setting out the training session. There's a knock on the door, and the coaches had no idea this was coming. There's a knock on the door, and he's told he's going. Now, I do think that some fans, in truth, will think, well, okay, don't really like the way it's been done. Feel like the management of it could have been different because this guy brought us up. But actually, a change of coach, some people I think will be behind that, because in truth, you watched Oviedo this season, and even in the build up to the playoffs last year. And I'm trying to be analytical here rather than emotional, rather than kind of connected to it. And you didn't always see, like, this wasn't a team that was playing brilliant football. Okay, so you can see a sort of an argument for it. I still think it feels premature. Right, then the next step is the choice of the new manager.
Okay.
Right. Again, this is a caveated one, okay? But Luis Carrion is the coach that took Oviedo to the playoffs the year before they went up, when they lost the playoff final to Espanyol. Luis Carrion took over from Álvaro Cervera, and Oviedo were disastrous under him and completely changed them. Now, we're talking here, talking a minute ago about seeing a style, seeing an approach. Carrion was that. That team did play well. That team did deserve to be in the playoffs. That team did have a really, really good record in his period in charge, and they blew it on the last day. Well, they got beaten on the last day. I don't know if they blew it. They just got beaten on the last day and didn't go up, and Espanyol did. So in that sense, you say, great, okay, fine. But Carrion then went to Las Palmas. And it's not just that coach goes to first division team from second division team, which I think most people would accept. It is that there was this awareness or this idea that he'd already agreed to go to Las Palmas before the playoffs, and some people were a bit uneasy about that. Now, I think the reality of football is that happens, Then there was post playoffs, a kind of I don't know how many days it was, 4 days maybe, of kind of, well, maybe he'll stay. We're negotiating with him. There was some comments he made outside a famous hotel in Oviedo where he'd been meeting with Oviedo and the club, in which he basically allowed people to believe that there's still a chance he stays.
Right.
And I think when he then went, and also the way it was handled by Las Palmas, because Las Palmas' president came out and put a tweet up saying, keep calm and carry on, as if to say, here's Oviedo, these mugs, thinking they can get him to stay, but don't worry, it's all tied up. And the suspicion is it was all tied up and he couldn't get out of it. And even if he'd wanted to, and maybe he did, he couldn't get out of it. So the Oviedo fans are absolutely furious at how he went. So his return now isn't welcome.
Well, let's see. It will be. It will be if he wins his first game, which is on Friday.
I think he needs to win more than his first game, and I think he needs to start winning quickly to get that. Now, for what it's worth, I'm going to be honest with you. Personally, on some levels, I'm really pleased that Callion's back. And I actually quite welcome it. And I do think that there's a risk of us going a bit too mad about what happened with Las Palmas. But I do think that. But if you manage the environment, it just seems risky bringing back a management that genuinely will have fans whistling and booing him on Friday.
Yeah, but win a couple of games and you'll be fine. So.
Well, that's my hope. Yes.
Yeah. Espanyol at home on Friday night, first game.
Yeah. So his career at Oviedo ends with Espanyol, and now it starts with Espanyol.
Yes. We will talk more about potentially that and other matches coming up on the Friday preview pod. I do want to end today's podcast by just beginning. Should we start it already? El Clasico build-up, Sid. There is a Clasico.
Yeah, and it's quite soon. To be fair, we're not doing this a month in advance.
No, it's in 2 weeks. So we've got this round of fixtures coming up this weekend, and then it's El Clasico. So this weekend, and again, we'll go more in depth than this on the Friday preview pod. You've got Barcelona against Girona on the Saturday, and then you've got Getafe against Real Madrid on the Sunday. Real Madrid are currently 2 points ahead of Barcelona. They're on 21. And Barcelona are on 19. My question to you, Sid, is heading into the Clasico, who will have more points? Who will be above whom? What situation will we be in? So
Getafe, Real Madrid and Barca, who, sorry?
Girona.
Real Madrid will have.
Yeah?
Well, they've got more points now, and they'll both win at the weekend.
They'll both win at the weekend, yeah? Simple as that.
Well, I mean, not as simple as that, because shit happens in football, but that would be my expected outcome of this weekend.
Okay, hashtag expected outcomes. Good. Okay, well, let's see. More on that on Friday. Let's see if we can expand upon it a little bit more on the preview podcast and make it sound a little bit more interesting and exciting.
Sorry. I'm normally the man that expands too much. When I finally give a short answer, it's the wrong time.
It's fine. Classico build-up, 10 seconds. Oviedo's managerial situation, 8
I'm
minutes.
I'm like the opposite of Martin Zubimendi. A man who knows when to slow the game down, when to speed it up, when to give more, when to give less. I am the complete opposite.
Yes. No worries. That's good. We will leave it there, amigos. Thanks very much for tuning in. We'll be over at patreon.com/TSFP for the rest of the week if you need us. And there will be a Friday preview pod as ever out on Friday, looking ahead to this weekend's games, possibly a bit more extensively than we have just done there. So make sure you join us.
We'll cover Real Oviedo in enormous detail. Don't worry.
Monumental detail. So make sure you tune in for that. Thanks for the support as ever. Adios.
Cheerio.